Robin Williams dropped the microphone. Silence. The audience held its breath. For a man who had spent his entire life filling silence with laughter, words, voices, characters, this moment was different. This silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was sacred. 2,000 people sat frozen in the Chicago theater, watching one of the greatest comedians of all time struggle to speak. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he had too much to feel. The charity event was supposed to be simple. A night of laughter to raise money for children's hospitals across America. Robin had done hundreds of these. He would walk on stage, make everyone laugh until their sides hurt, raise millions of dollars, and leave. That was the routine. That was what he did best. But tonight something went wrong. Or perhaps, something went right in the most painful way possible. Before we understand what happened on that stage, we need to go back. Back to a moment Robin thought he had left behind forever. But what occurred next would reveal a side of Robin Williams the world had never seen, a vulnerability so raw it would change everyone in that room forever. If you want to witness the most powerful moment of Robin Williams' life, subscribe now, because what happens next will break your heart and rebuild it in ways you never expected. It was 1997. Robin Williams was at the peak of his career. Good Will Hunting would soon win him an Oscar. Mrs. Doubtfire had made him a household name. His stand-up specials were legendary. But success, as Robin knew better than anyone, doesn't fill the empty spaces inside you. It just gives you better furniture to sit with while you think about them. The charity event organizers had planned everything meticulously. They knew Robin's schedule was packed. They knew he was exhausted from filming. But when they called and told him about the Children's Hospital Initiative, he didn't hesitate. He never did when it came to kids. There was something about children that pierced through all of Robin's defenses, all his characters, all his comedy armor. What the organizers didn't tell Robin, what they couldn't have known would matter, was that they had prepared a special introduction for him. A surprise. They had found an old recording from 1978, nearly 20 years earlier, when Robin was just starting out. A local radio interview where a young, unknown comedian talked about his dreams, his fears, and why he wanted to make people laugh. Backstage, 30 minutes before showtime, Robin was in his element. Pacing. Talking to himself in different voices. Warming up. His assistant, Maria, had been with him for 5 years and knew the routine. When Robin was about to perform, he became a tornado of energy. He would transform into a dozen characters in the span of 2 minutes, testing jokes, discarding them, inventing new ones on the spot. "You good, boss?" Maria asked, handing him a bottle of water. Robin stopped mid-pace, became still for just a moment, and smiled. Not the public smile. The real one. The tired one. Yeah, I'm good. Just a lot of kids counting on tonight, you know?" Maria nodded. She had learned not to push when Robin got that look in his eyes. That faraway look that appeared when he thought no one was watching. The look that said he was somewhere else, sometime else, someone else. The theater was packed. Families who had saved money to attend. Hospital staff who worked double shifts to afford tickets. And patients. So many young patients, some in wheelchairs, some with 4 poles, all with hope in their eyes that tonight, for a few hours, they could forget about pain and just laugh. The lights dimmed. The crowd roared. And then, instead of Robin walking out, the speakers crackled with an old, analog sound. The kind of audio quality that immediately tells you you're listening to the past. A young voice filled the theater. Robin's voice. But younger. Uncertain. Vulnerable in a way that the world had never heard him since. "Why do I want to make people laugh?" the recording said. I guess because when someone laughs, really laughs, they forget everything else for that second. Pain, fear, sadness, it all goes away. And if I can do that, if I can give someone even 1 second of forgetting their troubles, then maybe my life means something. There was a pause in the recording. You could hear the young Robin breathing. Then he continued. "My dad never laughed much. He was a good man, but he was sad, you know? I used to try everything to make him smile. Different voices, impressions, silly walks. And once, just once, I made him laugh so hard he had tears in his eyes. He hugged me after. Only time I remember him hugging me. So yeah, I guess that's why. Because that one laugh, that one hug, it felt like I mattered. The recording stopped. The theater remained silent. And then Robin Williams walked onto that stage, and everyone could see he was already broken. Backstage, the moment that recording started playing, something happened to Robin that his team had never witnessed before. He stopped moving. Completely still. His face, usually so animated, so alive with 1,000 expressions, went blank. Then his eyes filled with tears. "Who authorized that?" he whispered. Not angry. Just wounded. Maria rushed over. "Robin, I don't know. I wasn't told about any recording. He held up his hand. "It's okay. I just haven't heard that in so long." He wiped his eyes quickly, trying to compose himself. "My dad's been gone 8 years now. We never got to that place again. That one laugh. That was it." The stage manager appeared. "Mr. Williams, you're on in 30 seconds. Robin nodded. Took a breath. Started to put on the mask, the performer, the comedian everyone expected. But something was different this time. The mask wouldn't fit. Or maybe, for the first time in decades, he didn't want it to. He walked onto that stage with tears still fresh in his eyes. The audience, expecting the usual high-energy Robin, the manic genius who would launch into a dozen voices before even saying hello, instead saw a man walking slowly to center stage, holding a microphone like it weighed 100 pounds. That's when he dropped it. Not accidentally. Deliberately. Let it fall to his side. And just stood there. 2,000 people, absolute silence. You could hear the air conditioning. Someone coughed in the back row. A child whispered, "Mom, is he okay?" Robin stood in that spotlight, and for the first time in his career, he wasn't performing. He was just being human. Being hurt. Being real. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, but the acoustics carried it to every corner of that theater. "I wasn't expecting that. That recording. That was me at 27 years old. I had just moved to LA. I was sleeping on a friend's couch. I didn't know if I'd make it. I didn't know if any of this." He gestured vaguely at the theater, at his success, at his life. "What happened?" He walked slowly across the stage. The audience remained frozen, afraid that any movement might break whatever sacred moment they were witnessing. "My father died 8 years ago," Robin continued. "And I never told him. I never got to tell him that everything I did, every character, every joke, every movie, it was all still trying to get that laugh. That one laugh. The one he gave me when I was 12 years old." Subscribe now and leave a comment, because the most powerful moment of Robin's life is still ahead, and what he does next will show you why comedy is really just truth wrapped in laughter. A woman in the third row started crying. Then another. Then the teenagers who had come expecting a comedy show found themselves gripping their armrests, not with laughter, but with something deeper. Recognition. The universal ache of wanting to be seen by the people who matter most. Robin noticed the crying woman. He walked to the edge of the stage, closer to the audience than his security usually let him get. "You know what the cruel joke is?" he said, and there was that spark, that Robin Williams genius, but now it was filtered through pain instead of manic energy. "I spent my whole life learning how to make people laugh. Millions of people. I won an Oscar. I played the genie in Aladdin, for God's sake. Kids all over the world know my voice. But the one person I wanted to hear me laugh, the one person whose approval I needed more than any Academy Award. I ran out of time." He sat down. Right there on the stage. Cross-legged. Like a child. The spotlight operator, confused, adjusted the light to keep him illuminated in this unexpected position. "I'm supposed to make you laugh tonight," Robin said, looking out at the sea of faces. That's why you came. That's what I do. But I think maybe tonight, I need to tell you the truth instead. Is that okay? Someone in the audience shouted. Yes. Then another. Then applause. Not the roaring applause of entertainment, but the gentle, supportive applause of people saying, "We're here. We see you. It's okay." Robin nodded, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. The truth is, I became a comedian because I was afraid of silence. Silence meant I had to think. And thinking meant I had to feel. And feeling meant I had to remember all the times I wasn't enough. All the times the laugh didn't come. All the times I tried and failed to connect. He stood up, picked up the microphone he had dropped minutes earlier. But that recording, that kid talking about his dad, he was so hopeful. He really believed that if he just made enough people laugh, if he just brought enough joy into the world, it would somehow travel back in time and make his father proud. A man in the audience stood up. He was older, maybe 70. "My son tries to make me laugh every day," he called out, his voice shaking. "I want you to know I am proud. I've always been proud. Even when I forget to say it." Robin looked at the man. Really looked at him. Then he smiled. Not the performer's smile. Not the character's smile. Just Robin's smile. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Thank you for saying that." The moment shifted. Something in the air changed. What had been Robin's private grief became a shared experience. The audience wasn't watching a show anymore. They were participating in a collective healing. But nobody in that theater knew that this night would become one of Robin's most treasured memories, a moment he would return to in his darkest times, proof that vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was the greatest strength of all. A young girl, maybe 13, raised her hand. She was in a wheelchair, on 4-pole attached to her chair. Robin saw her and walked to her side of the stage. "Yes, sweetheart?" Her voice was small but clear. "Mr. Williams, I've been in the hospital for 6 months. I watch your movies every day. They make me forget I'm sick. But tonight, seeing you sad, it makes me feel less alone in being sad too. Is that weird?" Robin knelt down at the edge of the stage, as close to her as he could get. "No, honey. That's not weird at all. That's the most beautiful thing I've heard in years." The girl smiled. "My dad comes to visit every day. He tries to make me laugh. He's not very good at it." The audience laughed softly. "But I laugh anyway because I know it makes him feel better. I think maybe your dad knew too. That you were trying. And even if he couldn't say it, maybe he laughed inside." Robin put his hand over his heart. Tears streaming down his face now, not trying to hide them anymore. "Thank you. Thank you for that." The organizer appeared at the side of the stage, concerned. They had scheduled 90 minutes of comedy. They were 20 minutes in and hadn't had a single planned joke. But when she saw the faces in the audience, when she saw people holding hands with strangers next to them, when she saw the hospital patients smiling not because they were laughing but because they were feeling, she backed away. This was more important than any plan. Robin stood back up, returned to center stage. "I came here tonight to raise money for children's hospitals. To do what I always do, make you laugh until you open your wallets." A few chuckles. The mood was lightening slightly. "But I think if it's okay with all of you, I'd like to try something different." He looked around the theater. "I'd like to share some stories. Real stories. Not jokes with punchlines, but moments that mattered. And then I'd like you to share yours. Because I think maybe, just maybe, the way we help these kids isn't just by giving money. It's by showing them that being human, being vulnerable, being real, that's not something to hide. That's something to celebrate." For the next hour, Robin Williams did something he had never done before in a public performance. He told the truth. He talked about his struggles with addiction, his battles with depression, his fears that no matter how much success he achieved, there was still a voice inside saying he wasn't enough. He talked about his children, how terrified he was of failing them the way he felt his father had failed him, even though he understood now his father had done the best he could. And the audience responded. People stood up and shared their stories. The man whose son tried to make him laugh every day. A mother whose daughter was in treatment. A teenager who had lost his father and never got to say goodbye. The event raised 3 times more money than any previous year. But that wasn't the real gift of that night. 3 weeks later, Robin received a letter. It was from the young girl in the wheelchair. She had gone home from the hospital. In her letter she wrote, "Thank you for showing me that it's okay to be sad sometimes. My dad and I talk about our feelings now, not just jokes. You gave us permission to be real." Robin kept that letter in his pocket for months. On hard days, when the voices got loud and the darkness crept in, he would take it out and read it. Share this video and subscribe, so his story, his truth, his gift of vulnerability will never be forgotten. That night in Chicago, Robin Williams didn't make people laugh. He made them feel. And in the end, that mattered more than any punchline ever could. Because the boy who just wanted his father's approval had finally learned the truth. The greatest performance is simply being brave enough to be yourself. The recording from 1978 still exists somewhere in a radio station archive. But the real recording, the one that mattered, was written in the hearts of 2,000 people who witnessed a comedy legend become fully human. And in that moment, Robin Williams wasn't a character, wasn't performing, wasn't hiding. He was finally free.